Imagine standing at the edge of a quiet forest at dusk. A pair of amber eyes is watching you. You don't see them yet, but the fox sees everything. It sees your shape. It sees your slow, clumsy walk. It hears your heartbeat through the leaves. It smells the soap on your skin, the coffee from this morning, the metal of your keys. And in that moment, it is asking a question. Not, is that a human? Foxes don't have a word for human. What it's really asking is something much stranger. It's asking, what kind of thing is that, and should I run? Have you ever wondered what a wild fox actually thinks you are? Not whether it likes you, not what they actually think you are, but what category, what shape, what kind of creature its mind files you under. Because to a fox, you are not a person. You are a puzzle. You are a giant, slow, two-legged shape that smells like 1,000 confusing things at once. And the way it solves that puzzle says everything about how a fox sees the world. The truth is, foxes are not built to understand us. They are built to predict us. A fox lives by prediction. It predicts where the mouse will leap, where the rabbit will dart, where the farmer will walk at sunrise. So when a human enters its world, the fox doesn't ask, who are you? It asks, what will you do next? And to answer that, it leans on 3 tools sharper than almost any pet you've ever met. Its nose, its ears, and its memory. Let's start with the nose, because it is doing the heaviest work. A fox's sense of smell is so detailed, it can read a story from a single footprint. It can tell if you are male or female. It can tell if you have been near another animal. It can tell if you are afraid, because fear has a chemistry, and that chemistry leaks out of your skin. In 1947, a Russian biologist named Dmitry Belyaev began the longest experiment ever run on foxes. He didn't ask what foxes thought of humans. He asked something deeper. He asked whether a fox could ever stop seeing us as a threat at all. We'll come back to him in a moment, because what he found changed everything. First, the ears. A wild fox can hear a mouse breathing under 30 centimeters of snow. That means it can hear you from absurd distances. The crack of a twig, the brush of fabric against your jacket, the faint click of a phone unlocking in your pocket. Long before you see the fox has. And then there is memory. Foxes remember places, routes, faces, and routines with shocking precision. They remember the bin you left open last week. They remember the dog that chased them in spring. They remember the human who once threw food and the human who once threw a stone. In a fox's mind, you are not just a body. You are a track record. So now, back to the real question. What does a fox actually think you are? Behavioral biologists who study wild canids describe something fascinating. When a fox first encounters a human, it doesn't see a person. It sees a tall predator that walks upright and rarely chases. That last part matters more than anything else. Because predators that don't chase are predators a fox can study. And foxes love to study. They are famously curious, almost playfully so. A fox will sit on a hill and watch a farmer for hours just to learn his pattern. It will follow a hiker at a careful distance, not stalking, just collecting data. It will tilt its head at a parked car, the way a child tilts their head at a magic trick. To a bird, are you a strange featherless giant? Well, Wolford, are you staffed? To a gourd, are you staffed? A moving tree because you are tall, vertical, and mostly predictable. A strange, slow wolf because you sometimes carry the scent of meat, and sometimes you leave food behind. That second part is where everything changes. Because the moment a fox connects you to food, your category in its mind shifts. You stop being a danger. You start being a resource. And a resource is studied even more carefully than a threat. This is why urban foxes behave so differently from forest foxes. In a city, a fox quickly learns that humans drop, spill, and discard. It learns the rhythm of trash day. It learns which back doors open at which hours. It learns which humans shout and which humans whisper. Some city foxes have been observed waiting outside the same restaurant every night at the exact closing time. Not because they understand restaurants, but because they understand you. Now pause for a second because I want to ask you something. Have you ever looked into an animal's eyes and wondered what they think of you? A fox in a garden, a deer at the edge of a road, an owl on a fence post. Tell me about it in the comments, because those moments matter more than we admit. They are tiny conversations between two species that almost never speak. And the more we share them, the more we learn how close the wild really is to us. Now back to the fox, because there is something darker and stranger and more beautiful coming. Here is the part most people get wrong. A wild fox does not feel love for you, but it can feel something almost as powerful: trust. And trust in a fox's world is rarer than food. Trust means the fox has rewritten its prediction. It has decided you are not a threat that will suddenly become one. It has decided you are a fixed feature of its environment, like a stream or a fallen log. That is not affection. That is something older. That is the quiet acceptance of a creature that has watched you long enough to know your shape by heart. Which brings us back to Dmitry Belyaev and his Russian foxes. Belyaev took silver foxes from a fur farm and began selecting them for one trait only: tameness. He chose the foxes that flinched least when a human reached toward them. He bred those. Then he chose their calmest cubs and bred those. Generation after generation, decade after decade, he changed almost nothing else. And something extraordinary happened. The foxes started to look different. Their ears drooped. Their tails curled. Their coats developed white patches. They began to wag at humans. They began to whimper for attention. In just a few decades, he had turned wild foxes into something that behaved almost like dogs. But here's what people forget about that experiment. Those tame foxes were no longer asking, "What kind of thing is that?" They had already decided. To them, humans had become safe, familiar, a part of the world they were born into. A wild fox, by contrast, is still asking the question every single day. Every encounter is a fresh evaluation. Every human is a new equation. And that is the real difference between a wild fox and a tame one. It is not the body. It is the question they ask when they see you. So if a wild fox stops in a field and stares at you, here is what is happening inside its head. It is comparing your shape to every shape it has seen. It is measuring the distance you would need to close to reach it. It is calculating the angle of the wind, the cover of the trees, the path of escape. It is checking its memory for any human who has ever moved like you. And it is deciding in less than a second whether you are worth investigating or worth fleeing. You will never know that calculation happened, but it did. That is what a fox is: a small, silent statistician of survival. And here's the part that humbles me every time I think about it. When a fox decides you are safe, it doesn't celebrate. It just keeps watching. Because in a fox's world, safety is never permanent. It is a temporary truce between two creatures who could still surprise each other. And maybe that is the most honest relationship any animal can have with us. Not love. Not loyalty. Just an ongoing, careful, respectful negotiation. A wild fox does not need us. It does not want our food, our attention, or our company. It only wants to know what we will do next. And in trying to answer that question, it ends up knowing us better than we know ourselves. It knows our routines. It knows our smells. It knows our moods, sometimes before we do. It knows which of us moves like a hunter and which of us moves like a wanderer. And it carries that knowledge silently into the dark, into the den, into the next generation of cubs. Because foxes teach their young what humans are. A mother fox will lead her cubs along the edge of a road, pausing at every car, showing them how to wait, how to cross, how to vanish. She is teaching them your danger. She is teaching them your gift She is teaching them the strange two-legged shape that sometimes throws bread and sometimes throws stones. And those cubs will grow up with a version of you stored in their minds, shaped by their mother's experience and their own. Think about that for a moment. Somewhere in a forest right now, a wild fox is carrying a mental picture of humanity that was shaped, in part, by you. By the way you walked past it once. By the bag of leftovers you forgot in a park. By the quiet way you watched it cross the street without flinching. That is the strange, beautiful weight of being human in a wild animal's world. We are not gods to them. We are not monsters. We are just the most unpredictable creatures they have ever met. And maybe that is what we have always been. A puzzle that other minds are still trying to solve. So the next time you see a fox at the edge of a field or a flash of orange under a street lamp, remember what is really happening. It is not running from you. It is reading you. And in that quiet moment you are part of a story that began long before either of you was born. A story about how two species learned to share a planet without ever sharing a language. If this video made you see foxes a little differently, please leave a like, because it genuinely helps more curious minds find this channel. If you want more videos that quietly explore how animals see, think, and feel about us, consider subscribing. And I would love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever had a moment with a wild animal that felt like it was studying you back? Tell me your story, because those moments are the heart of this channel. In the next video, we will step into the mind of another wild neighbor and ask what a crow really sees when it watches you from a rooftop. Until then, keep wondering, keep watching, and keep listening to the quiet minds that share our world.